It didn't happen at a birthday party or a corporate gala. No dramatic confrontation, no slamming doors. Just a regular Wednesday, 7:38 a.m. The kitchen. I was pouring myself coffee into the same chipped mug we bought at a Monterey Street fair years ago. Still had that crack on the side, but I never threw it out. Didn't know why at the time. I do now. Andrea walked in barefoot, holding her phone and wearing that face she is usually reserved for awkward Zoom calls with HR. A little too composed. A little too calculated. She sat down across from me, phone face down. First time she'd ever done that. Always used to leave it face up, like she had nothing to hide. She didn't say good morning. Didn't ask about my meeting. She just sat there, fingers grazing the rim of her coffee mug, pretending this was normal. And I let her, at least for that moment. Later that day, my old tablet buzzed to life. I hadn't touched it in weeks, maybe months. It synced with her Google account, something we set up ages ago when she needed help managing 2 calendars. That forgotten link was still alive. Her inbox, her calendar, her notes, even her messages. And right there, tucked between a dentist appointment and a Zoom call labeled Team Sync, was a chat labeled Arthur, Agile Team. Arthur wasn't just running sprints. He was running game. Their messages weren't just flirtatious. They were intimate. Familiar. Too familiar. The kind of language that didn't come from one wild night, but from many careful, secret ones. And you know what I did? Nothing. Not right away. I read. I scrolled. I watched their plans unfold like a bad novella. And as I sat there, not moving, not blinking, something inside me shifted. Not broken. Not yet. Just rerouted. Like water finding a new path through cracked stone. Andrea thought she was in control. But the moment that tablet synced, the moment I read the words, "Can't wait for next weekend," everything changed. I didn't raise my voice. I started taking notes. There's a strange power in silence. When you stop reacting, people start getting nervous. And I was done reacting. I forwarded the messages to a secure email I controlled. Backed up the photos. Took screenshots. Dated and labeled everything like it was going into evidence. Because in a way, it was. Not for a courtroom. Not yet. But for me. I needed clarity. And once I had it, I couldn't unsee it. The Thursday yoga retreats that aligned with his conference trips. The way her mood changed after long lunches. The sudden interest in high-end lingerie she claimed was on sale. They always underestimate the quiet ones. I had been steady for so long she thought I was asleep. Friday, I drove to a small law firm 2 towns over. No connections. No chance of this circling back. I booked a consultation under my middle name. The lawyer was sharp, quick, and didn't ask many questions after I handed her a flash drive and said, "Tell me what I can do without her knowing." She smiled. Plenty. By the end of the meeting, I had a list. Financial accounts to separate. Documents to secure. A burner phone with end-to-end encryption. A strategy. I didn't want revenge. I wanted exit velocity. Andrea was building a fantasy. I was building an escape. I came home that night like nothing had changed. She kissed me on the cheek. I let her. She made pasta. I did the dishes. We watched a documentary she half-scrolled through. She thought I was drifting further into the routine. I was memorizing my way out. The next week, I moved quietly. Transferred important files from our shared laptop to an external drive. Opened a private checking account. Started going through old receipts, finding patterns, tracing footprints. Andrea had a pattern. Like most liars, she wasn't as clever as she thought. The same places. The same timing. I could almost predict when the next lie would come just by the time she left work. I took pictures of everything. Passwords. Calendar reminders. Even the post-it note she kept in her desk drawer with his Starbucks order. "He likes oat milk," she once said, When I asked why we suddenly had it in the fridge, now I knew why. The truth wasn't painful anymore. It was empowering. I wasn't spying. I was studying, preparing. It's funny, when someone cheats, they expect chaos. Screaming, slamming doors, broken plates. But silence? That throws them off. Andrea started to notice. Not all at once. Not in a movie scene kind of way. But slowly. The way I'd stop asking about her day. The way I'd leave earlier in the morning and come back without explanations. The way I started smiling again, but not at her. She sensed it. And I made sure she never knew what I was thinking. Because I wasn't trying to win her back. I was building the day I'd walk away. 2 weeks into the plan, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. Not in the way she probably expected. No boiling rage, no teary breakdowns. Just precision. Focus. Like I'd stepped outside the marriage and was watching it rot in real time. That's when I started staging the exit. First, I pulled a copy of the deed to her house. Guess whose name was still solo on the title? She had insisted I put her on it years ago. I smiled politely and never did. Now it was my ace. Next, I went through our shared bank account with a fine-tooth comb. Quietly moved my direct deposits into the new account. Froze the joint credit card for suspected fraud and let her deal with that awkward call to customer service. She chalked it up to a system error. I chalked it up to phase 1. I started calling in favors. College friend in IT, a buddy in HR compliance, a cousin who worked part-time with a PI. I didn't ask them to dig yet. Just wanted to know what it would look like if I did. That same week, Andrea made a mistake. She left her work laptop open on the dining table when she went to shower. Notifications pinged. Slack, calendar, email. And there it was, a dinner reservation for 2 under her name. Friday, 8 p.m. Arthur. I took a picture of the screen. Not because I needed more proof. At this point, I had a full portfolio. I took it because part of me still couldn't believe she was this sloppy. Or maybe she just didn't care anymore. That Friday, I told her I had an early meeting Saturday and needed rest. She left wearing a dress I didn't recognize. New perfume. Didn't even bother to lie. Said she was meeting a friend from her Pilates class. I said, tell her I said hi. She blinked. I almost laughed. At 8:07 p.m., I received a photo from the PI I'd hired that afternoon. Arthur and Andrea clinking wine glasses at a trendy restaurant. Cozy booth. Her hand on his knee. I forwarded the photo to my secure folder and turned off my phone. Because while she was toasting her little lie, I was writing the final chapter. One morning, about a month into this silent unraveling, I did something unexpected. Even to myself. I bought her a gift. Not flowers. Not jewelry. A book. A rare, first edition hardcover of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. The irony? Delicious. She once quoted the book to me during a dinner argument about career goals, like she was some strategist conquering the corporate battlefield. I remembered thinking, this woman really thinks life is chess and everyone else is a pawn. So I wrapped it neatly, ribbon and all, and left it on her side of the bed with a handwritten note tucked inside. To the tactician. Thought you might want to revisit Chapter 6, Weak Points and Strong. R. She opened it that night. Didn't say a word. I watched her from the hallway. She flipped through the pages, trying to understand if this was a peace offering, a warning, or a joke. It was none of those things. It was a message. I see you. I know what you're doing. And I'm not even mad about it anymore. That weekend, she started acting strange. Not paranoid, just aware. Suddenly more affectionate. Cooked dinner. Suggested we go hiking like we used to. Sat closer on the couch. It was her version of recon. She thought she could win back control. That maybe she still had time to pivot the story. recast herself as the wife who just lost touch, but remembered in time to save it. And I let her. Every step, every glance, every false start. Because here's the twist. While she was testing my boundaries, I was testing hers. I had already delivered an anonymous tip to her company's ethics board with the receipts of her misuse of travel funds. I had already scheduled the financial review with my lawyer to finalize asset separation. And just for fun, I had emailed Arthur's fiancée. Yeah, turns out Golden Boy had a whole other life in Connecticut. Found her on LinkedIn. Sent her a nice little PDF titled Transparency, a Mutual Value. No threats. No drama. Just facts. Screenshots. Receipts. Hotel dates. I signed it from someone who knows how it feels. The next night, Andrea got a call. She didn't tell me who it was from, but I saw her hands shaking. Guess chess isn't so fun when the board flips. She didn't know I'd followed her calendar invites for weeks. Didn't know I'd memorized her passcode by watching the reflection in her sunglasses on a Sunday afternoon. She didn't know I knew about the work gala. The one she said was spouses optional, then conveniently employees only. What she really didn't know. I RSVP'd. Not under my name. Not even as a guest. I had a friend who worked freelance AV for events like that. Told him I needed a favor. Paid him for his time and his silence. And I sent a USB drive. The gala was sleek. Cocktail attire. Mood lighting. Low music. Andrea looked stunning. I'll give her that. Hair done. Red dress I hadn't seen before. Arthur stood beside her like he belonged in a perfume ad. The presentation was about ethical leadership. I couldn't make this up if I tried. When the lights dimmed for the keynote video, the screen flickered. Instead of the speaker intro, the video I had queued started rolling. First, a slow scroll of Slack messages between her and Arthur, cropped to just enough context. Inside jokes, emoji hearts, travel plans. Next, screenshots of hotel bookings made with her company card. Same weekends as the retreats. Then a slideshow of calendar overlaps. Her meetings with Arthur. His consulting expenses. Cross-referenced like a courtroom exhibit. People stared. Whispers started. Arthur was the first to move, scrambling toward the tech booth. But it was too late. The screen went black, and then flashed one final quote from the book I'd gifted her. All warfare is based on deception. And then my initials. R. I didn't stay to watch the aftermath. Didn't need to. I sat in my truck outside, watching the faces of people as they filed out. Some looking stunned. Others curious. She called me 5 times that night. I didn't answer. The 6th came at 12:17 a.m. Voicemail. Her voice, frantic, breathless. Ryan, what did you do? I didn't reply. Instead, I sent her one message. You're not the only one who can go off script. Then I powered off the phone, turned on some Sinatra, and poured myself a bourbon. Because the truth wasn't just out. It had a spotlight that it had been 5 days since the gala. 5 days since Arthur disappeared from LinkedIn and Andrea's social media went dark. Since her company issued a polite but firm statement about internal reviews and leadership transition. I hadn't heard from her since the voicemail. Not directly. But that morning, there was a knock on my door. Not her. Not Arthur. Her sister. Melissa and I had always gotten along. Maybe too well. She used to joke that if Andrea messed up, she'd marry me herself. I thought it was just dark humor. Now, I wasn't so sure. She stood there in jeans, a cardigan, and eyes that had clearly read the headlines. Can I come in? I nodded. Wordlessly. I didn't have the energy for pleasantries. We sat at the kitchen table. The same one where Andrea once planned our second honeymoon. I just came to say, Melissa began, I'm sorry. And not on her behalf. On mine. I knew something was off months ago. I didn't say anything. I didn't respond. Just watched her fingers trace circles into her coffee mug. She's not herself, she added. I smiled, small, tired. Maybe she is. Maybe this is who she's been for a while. We just didn't want to look closely. She nodded, then reached into her purse and slid over a small envelope. What's this? She asked me to give it to you. Said you'd never take her call. I didn't touch it. She's not asking for forgiveness, Melissa added. She's trying to explain. I laughed gently. After all this, now she wants me to understand. No, Melissa said. I think now she realizes you understood all along. She stood, squeezed my shoulder. You didn't deserve this. But damn if you didn't handle it like a professional hit. When the door closed behind her, I sat there staring at the envelope, still unopened, because I wasn't sure if I was ready for her truth. Not when mine had already scorched the earth. It took me 2 weeks to open the envelope. It sat on the kitchen counter like a dare. Part of me didn't want her words in my head again. Not after everything I'd scrubbed clean. But one night, I poured a glass of whiskey, sat down, and slid a letter out. 3 pages. Neat handwriting. No perfume. No drama. She started with, I won't ask you to forgive me, which, frankly, was the smartest thing she'd written in years. She didn't beg. She didn't spin. She told me things I already knew. How she felt invisible. How she craved excitement. How Arthur wasn't the first, just the most recent. That one hit like a cold wind, but it didn't knock me over. I'd suspected. Now I just had confirmation. What stuck with me wasn't her guilt. It was her final line. You stopped looking at me like I was your future. So I found someone who pretended to. I folded the letter in half. No tears. No fire. Just understanding. We'd both left that marriage years before the paperwork caught up. A month later, the divorce finalized. Clean. Quiet. No contest. I kept the house. She kept her name, what was left of it. We didn't speak again. Not even when I moved out. Yep, I sold the house. Too many ghosts in the drywall. Bought a cabin near the lake. Nothing fancy. Wood stove. A dog that came with the place. I named him Poe. He listens better than Andrea ever did. Some nights I sit on the porch, bourbon in hand, and think about how it all went down. How close I came to living the rest of my life half awake. But now I sleep. I laugh easier. Eat slower. Live better. Sometimes peace doesn't come from fixing what broke. Sometimes it comes from walking away without leaving pieces of yourself behind. And for the first time in years, I feel whole.